G'day guys, welcome back to Lost Scoutcraft. Today I'm going to be teaching you the basics about packing a hiking backpack and the basics of what you will need on your trip. So if you're wondering why we are now in a backyard scene, it's because we were interrupted by a very sketchy fellow at the park, but nonetheless back to backpacks. So when you're going to buy a backpack, something you want to look out for is the size. This backpack here is a 65 litre backpack. It is perfect for pretty much any situation. My general rule of thumb is don't go any lower than 60, and that is because you can't fit all of your shit in it. Just to clarify, yes, we are filming this at night, but I don't care. Anyway, just to show you a brief example of different sizes. This is my bag. It's a 65 litre bag. This is my mate's hiking pack. It is a 55 litre. It's the same make and brand, but just a bit smaller. This is also my mate's bag. It is a 70 litre. So it's not too much bigger than that, but it is, as you can see, a fair bit taller. So in round figures, I would always recommend this 65 litre one from Mountain Designs. It's a fantastic backpack, not a sponsorship or brand deal, but nonetheless, as you can see, a 55 would get away with it, but it's still, you can't have as many luxuries with that one. This one you can have a bit more luxury, and this one, even though it's bigger, it has less pockets on it, which means less luxuries, but nonetheless, here's a basic overview. But nonetheless, now we'll move on to the basics of fitting it to your body with the straps. So what you'll first want to do is have this belt here that has padding on either side. You want to make sure that it is fitting nice and firm around your waist, and it is sitting on your hips. Not on your hips here, not on your stomach, but it is sitting nice and firm on your hips. Second thing you want to have is these bottom straps here. As you can see, now that I've lowered this, because this was sitting nicely on my hips, the backpack is being held by the strap on my hips. But you always want to make sure it is nice and high on your back, and that will prevent energy loss, and it will make the trip much more comfortable. So you can pull that up and make sure it's nice tight down and it sits nice and round on your shoulders. And now these two straps up here, these straps are to help direct the top of your backpack and the general center of gravity onto your shoulders and help distribute the load on your shoulder straps. So when you're setting up your backpack, give them a pull down and it'll tighten up and move onto your shoulders, and it'll make the trip much more comfy. And the chest strap here, you never want it to be too tight. You just want it to clip in and hold your shoulder straps in place, because if you have it too loose, they're just going to start falling around and come off your back, and it will put a lot of weight onto your lower back. But yeah, if you have it too tight, you can't breathe. So you want to have it just firm enough to, you know, keep it on your back. Now we'll go into adjusting the height of your shoulder straps. So this will this strap down here will make sure everything sits nicely and firmly and is well rounded onto your shoulders. But you're going to have to heighten the actual shoulder straps depending on your body size. You always want it to sit high on your back, so you can't have these straps too high up and it's sitting low on your back. So on most backpacks, you'll be able to remove a pad back here, and it will have a sort of rigging system. So what you can do with this is, if you undo that, you'll be able to pull up your shoulder pads, and they slide along these metal bars which will go all the way up your pack. And if you're wondering, oh shit, that's going to be heavy, yes it is, but it also helps keep any hard objects from penetrating through the bag and poking into your back. So you can heighten that up, so this would be sitting fairly low on your back, but you don't want that. So if you pull it, it'll go back to the way it was, and it will sit nice on your back, and make sure you play around with it before you put all of your stuff in it, because you don't want to have to be hauling it on and off again, like I am. Right, so now we're going to talk about weight distribution. So when you are packing a backpack, there are very simple rules to when you're packing them. You may have heard a lot of things such as heavy things on the top, light things on the bottom. Whilst that is somewhat true, it isn't. So the actual practice that you want to be doing is light things always go on the bottom because it's on your hips and lower back. Things such as your sleeping bag, sleeping mat, and say blankets and spare clothes and stuff like that can go on the bottom. Then you want your heavy items sort of middle to top. So that can be things such as your water, any axes or tent pegs, and any heavy items that you may be carrying, cooking equipment, pots, pans, all that sort of stuff goes into middle to top. Then at the top you'll have your medium items. Medium items can be your food rations and or any wildlife books or chargers or something like that, that you sort of want to have a fairly quick access to, but yet it's also a medium weight item. And then right at the top, inside your hood, you can keep your first aid kit, toilet paper, and like head torches and anything like that that you need real quick access to. So most backpacks will have a small bag on the back here. I recommend keeping anything that you will firstly need quick access to, or your group might need access to. So for instance, in here I carry my scout handbook, but also I carry my map bag. And firstly, I won't be able to take my bag off, but someone else in my group will easily be able to grab into this pocket and grab my map bag. But onto packing water now. When you are packing water, it is obviously going to be a heavy item, so middle to top. Make sure your water is always placed central from either side. It is always central, because when you're carrying water and walking along, it'll slosh side to side, and that will create a bit of movement in your backpack. So if you were to carry all your water on one side, not only will that be heavy, but you'll also be having a slashing motion on one side, and it will just make your walking pattern an absolute pain to do. So try and keep it on both sides, or if you absolutely have to, put it along either side and even it out a bit. And here I have my tent on the side, and I have a small easy access bottle of water on this side. Things you also want to keep close on hand is a flashlight, which I have on the left hand strap, and also a radio or ECD emergency communications device. So we've got my UHF radio here. It is a 80 channel radio, and just for the sake of it, in Australia and New Zealand, channel 5 and 35 are both the emergency repeater channels. So these channels will rebound off of any radio towers that there may be, but other than that, those channels are illegal to use unless it is an emergency. So mainly Mayday and Pan calls can be used on that channel. So a basic equipment overview of things you're going to require on a hiking trip. So we'll start with basic clothes. So you're going to want a waterproof rain jacket for those situations where you might have a unexpected downpour. Some warm clothes, a really warm clothes such as bomber jackets, a spare pair of underpants, socks and t-shirts and pants and all that sort of stuff. You're going to want a ground foam mat. This is good for insulating. It is incredibly warm, and as you can see, I've had this for years. Next thing, it is a preference, but you can have an inflatable mattress. These are great, especially if you get a lightweight one like this. it takes like 30 seconds to put up, 100 hours to pack back in, and they're real comfortable. Next you go on a sleeping bag. Nothing higher than rated for 0 degrees for Australia, unless you're doing summer camping, which I guess you could probably go to like a 10-degree sleeping bag. And if you're in Victoria in the Blue Mountains when it's snowing, I guess you probably want to go to a -10 or 20. Next thing you're going to want is a small tent. This is a one person. I have owned this for 12 years and it is absolutely fantastic. It's nice, lightweight, it compacts down, and it's just fantastic. Next you're going to want some lightweight blankets. So I keep one for my ground sheet to keep insulation, one for the top of my sleeping bag, a towel in case I get wet or need an extra blanket, a ground sheet for the bottom of my tent or extra waterproofing. In this bag would be this Oz Camouflage hoodie, which is a waterproof tarp pretty much. You're also going to want a good first aid kit, and if you're in Australia, one that is capable of treating any form of venomous bite or mass bleeding or something like that. Next you're going to want some basic cooking equipment. You can have a nice little gas stove or rocket stove. They're real fantastic. They're lightweight and they boil water in like 3-4 minutes, and they run off of little propane canisters like that. You're going to want a pot for boiling water, and I use one of my old military sort of frying pan canteens here. They're fantastic for cooking up stews and stuff like that. You're going to want plenty of either dehydrated or non-perishing foods. Here I have a metric fuck ton of Oriental fried rice. Not to be confused with an Imperial fuck ton, that's a completely different scenario right there. You're going to want water. This is nowhere near enough water, but it's just for the, what would you say, the example. You're also going to want probably 2 rolls of toilet paper, one for cooking and one for shitting. Either a ECD, emergency communication device, or a UHF radio. A map bag with all the maps of the areas that you'll be going into, and a good compass. A flashlight, or torch as we call it in Australia. Sorry, I had an American moment just then. They're fantastic. Just carry one. Don't use your phone. Batteries don't last in those things. If you want some sort of handbook to tell you about animals and fauna and how to do stuff in case you're getting rusty, forget, or are in an emergency, and a head torch. They're fantastic. It means you can be hands-free when you're cooking, and you can just walk around at night, and if you have to look at a kangaroo coming to attack you at midnight, you can do that without having to move your hands anywhere, which I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to do, because you want to get defending yourself with that stuff. So but nonetheless, that's a basic overview. G'day guys, Lost Edit here. Something that you cannot forget to take on your hiking trip is the 6-burner Barbie.